I'd like to call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Would everyone rise for the pledge? Mr. Sosa. He's already taken it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Could we have roll call, please?
Chavez, Hightower,
Here.
Jackson,
Here.
Mason, O'Connell,
Here.
Rosas, Sosa.
Here.
Okay. And we need a motion to accept the written correspondence. Oh, sorry, Calvin, go ahead, take your time.
No, good.
You're okay? Okay. Could we have a motion to accept the written correspondence? Dennis and Alex. Okay, could we have a roll call, please?
Hightower,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
O'Connell,
Aye.
Sosa.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay. Any oral? No. Moving right along, right? So we need a motion to approve the minutes from the regular board meeting of October 26th. Calvin, and a second by Alex. Do we have roll call, please?
Hightower,
Aye.
Jackson, O'Connell,
Aye.
Sosa. Motion carried.
Okay. Any
No
reports?
old business.
Okay, Mrs. Zimmerman. Any old business?
No, sorry about that.
Okay. All right, Laura?
Yes, the suggested motion is that the Board of Education approve the accounts and claims payable authorization as presented.
Okay, any questions on the bills?
No questions this month.
Okay, could we have a motion, please? Calvin, second by Dennis. Could we have roll call?
Hightower,
Aye.
Jackson,
Aye.
O'Connell,
Aye.
Sosa.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay,
And the monthly building rental report is included in your packet for your review, and this is for informational purposes only.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Sullivan.
No old business.
Okay, Mrs. Travis.
No old business.
Okay, any other old business? Okay, do we have executive session? Yes, okay. So then we need a motion to recess into closed session. Yes, let me see, it's 7:03. Okay, Alex and Dennis, could we have roll call, please?
Jackson,
Aye.
O'Connell,
Aye.
Sosa.
Aye.
Hightower.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Mhm. Okay, so we're reconvening to open session at 7:22. And all board members present except Rose and Maria. Okay, consideration of new business. I don't have a PACE report because we haven't had our meeting for this month yet. And then that meeting will be this Thursday on the 19th at 6 p.m. And that's all I have. Okay. Okay, so we ask that the board approve the licensed personnel leave of absence as presented for Ellen Invest. We have a motion, please. Dennis, second by Carlos. Could we roll call, please?
O'Connell.
Aye.
Sosa. Chavez. Hightower. Jackson. Motion carried.
We ask that the board accept the following resignation for Amari Smith, teacher aide, effective November 23rd, 2020. Motion, Dennis, second. By Carlos. Okay, could we have roll call, please?
Sosa.
Aye.
Chavez.
Aye.
Hightower.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Motion carried.
We ask that the board approve the educational support staff leave of absences as presented for Martha Rios, Dorothy Reber, Monica Salas, Betsy Ortiz, and Teresa Dunn. We have a motion, please. Alex, second by Ellen. We have roll call, please.
Chavez.
Aye.
Hightower.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Sosa.
Aye.
Motion carried.
We ask that the board approve the following fundraisers as presented for the Northside PTO for Whittier for a virtual scholastic book fair, a big teacher's night, flag stops, and food for us. We have a motion, please. Alex, second by Carlos. Do we have roll call, please?
Hightower.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Sosa.
Aye.
Chavez.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And we want to recognize that we did have a donation from McDonald's to Sunnyside School, and it was accepted on behalf of the board. So thank you to our McDonald's in Berkeley, and there's no further action required on that. Okay. Next up, we have our 5-year strategic plan update. And as the board is aware, every year we have been doing updates in regards to this strategic plan. It is hard to believe that we are actually in year 5 of this 5-year plan. And so we wanted to just take some time tonight to review what we accomplished in the last year and a look at to our current year, as well as what our strategy is going to be moving forward for the next 5 years in terms of building a new strategic plan. So I am actually going to share my screen, Mr. Bernard. You all can see. Okay, so this is the format that we've been using for the last 5 years to really keep track of the work of our strategic plan. As you recall, 5 years ago, we collectively created this plan based on each of our different kind of focus areas and our goal areas for the district. Prior to this, we really each kind of in our own departments established goals. And so this was a much more collaborative effort to bring our goal areas together and really concentrate the focus of our work. And so we have already completed and reviewed our 17, 18, 19 school years. FY20 in the area, our first goal was in the area of teaching and learning, which was to maximize student achievement, to prepare our learners to be career and college ready. Obviously, that is a very lofty goal and one that is really at the heart and soul of what we do as an educational organization. And looking to what we were able to accomplish last year, even though our year was semi-cut short due to the pandemic, but we were still able to make quite a bit of progress in terms of our work around this area. We spent quite a bit of time looking at our ELA maps and starting to explore and build some common assessments. We are still going to continue to work on those and revamp our ELA curriculum to better meet the needs of our students and our staff. We've also been able to expand our math programming. So last year was our first year of offering our algebra course, as well as implementing our new Ready Math curriculum. And That continues, that work obviously is continuing into this year. We also, just a couple highlights, started moving to our standards-based teaching and grading. And that started in the area of ELA, and we are going to continue that work and be moving forward so that we have a true standards-based grading format for all content areas to really better align what we teach and what we expect for student outcomes in terms of mastery of standards. Let's see. We've also spent some time around our new teacher induction and mentoring program, and that has continued into this year as well. And we spent a lot of time really focusing in on our professional development. So looking at this year, obviously we had kind of a pause on some of our areas from last year, and then we've had a change in our leadership in terms of our curriculum department. And so under the direction now of Ms. Zimmerman, we're going to be continuing to look at some of those things, as well as refocus and kind of refine how we approach curriculum as a whole in a district, so that whether we're looking at ELA or math or social studies or science or any of our exploratory areas, that we really are looking at it from a very cohesive and intentional framework. And so Ms. Zimmerman has created our curriculum council this year. And so we're gonna have one really tight, very well-aligned council of teachers, administrators, coordinating how we approach curriculum. And then there will be task forces as we address each of the specific content areas. And Ms. Zimmerman has shared a little bit about that, but you'll see that as one of our highlights in our current year work. We also are really focusing in on our continuation of our MTSS program, which is our multi-tier system of support. And that really is a fundamental foundational piece that we need to have in place in order to meet all needs of all students. So until that is in place, it's really hard to ensure that we have that rigorous, well-aligned curriculum in each of the content areas. So MTSS is something that we're going to spend a good deal of time really building our capacity around to develop a deep understanding, a very clear vision, and a really targeted outline of a plan on how we're going to ensure that it's implemented system-wide and everyone is doing it consistently and has all the resources and supports that they need to implement it with fidelity. So that is a lot that is going on in the area of teaching and learning, but all things that are really positive and very aligned to the foundational pieces that we've been building on each year. Goal number 2 was to ensure students are socially and emotionally ready to learn. Now, keep in mind, we targeted this as a goal 5 years ago, and it could not be more relevant today than it even was 5 years ago. And the board really supported us moving forward with this as a goal area. You supported us in expanding our personnel who supports very strategically our social and emotional learning by adding additional counselors and social workers. We've really spent a great deal of time building the capacity of our staff to understand not only SEL for our students, but SEL for ourselves in order to provide self-care and be the best professionals that we can be to support our students. And so this goal area really has, I think, well positioned us without even knowing it to be prepared for this pandemic. And when we looked at what happened in March, we knew that staying connected and ensuring that children were doing emotionally well and surviving this situation, as well as ensuring that they were continuing to learn, was a top priority. So some of these really foundational pieces in years 1, 2, and 3 really helped us in years 4 and 5. Additionally, this year, as Dr. Sullivan has already shared with the board, we've implemented a new assessment tool called Panorama, which allows us to really have students self-assess where they are in terms of social emotional readiness. And it will help us provide more targeted professional development for our staff and really better equip us to meet the specific needs of our students, and not just anecdotally looking at what we think about our kids, but really looking at it from a data perspective to target specific skills. Goal 3 was to ensure equitable technology access for all students and staff. Again, if we had a crystal ball 5 years ago and could predict being in a remote-only setting, we could not have better positioned ourselves in the area of technology. So the work that Mr. Byrne and his department has done, as well as the entire staff, to really embrace technology and ensure and promote its growth as a learning tool for all students, it has really been incredible, and I think has, again, enabled us to be as successful as we are in a remote setting, and hopefully be even more successful when we come back to an in-person setting. One of the goal areas that I wanted to highlight that Mr. Byrne really set, I think, as kind of a lofty goal was this one right here. And again, not anticipating a pandemic whatsoever, but it was a priority for students to be able to access the internet outside of the school day. And so as part of that work, what he was really able to accomplish was securing those hotspots, promoting the take home of our devices for students, really pushing forward with that one-to-one. So it is all of that foundational work that we were actually, I think, a step ahead of the curve when it came to being able to quickly transition to a remote setting. So great job, Mr. Byrne, since you are here. Ensuring that we have a robust and reliable network, again, something that we all rely upon, and we have really seen the growth in that area. Unfortunately, with technology, nobody notices it until it's not working, but I can attest that it is truly something that we have seen tremendous growth in the last 5 years, and you can tell it's really been a targeted goal area for us. Goal number 4 speaks to our personnel to hire and retain highly effective staff. That has been an intentional piece since I know I began here, and since Mrs. Travis started in her role. She and I, as you remember, started together 6 years ago. And being able to attract highly qualified staff and also being able to retain them has been a really core value for us, because we want to invest a great deal of time and resources into our staff and know that that will pay off in dividends by servicing our students. And so we have seen a decrease in the amount of turnover each year since we began this. We've also seen an increase in the number of staff positions that the board has supported and implemented. So we have a growing staff and also one that we are able to attract highly qualified people and hopefully continue to support them. It also speaks to board negotiations and being able to have an association for both our certified staff and our support staff that really has a trusting partnership so that we can continue to maintain those staff. Our next area, goal number 5, this one is just a real highlight, and I think a spotlight needs to be placed on this for the board. Provide a safe and high quality environment that supports student learning. And these last 5 years have really allowed us to not only maintain what we currently have, but to really be able to dream for what we could have in the future. And the work around our long-term facilities plan, the work around our educational alignment study, the partnership with our architects and with our community to successfully pass a referendum so that we are going to have 4 brand new facilities that will be better aligned to conduct the type of teaching and learning that we know our students deserve. Those are all major accomplishments that the board and the staff should feel very proud of, and our community itself. There's been a great deal of work in this area. I want to also, commend Mr. White and his staff, because maintaining what we currently have to allow us to get to that point to build new and to renovate speaks very highly about his team and the priorities that they've placed in terms of some of our health, life, safety work over the last 5 years. This also touches a little bit on our food and nutritional services programs. It has grown so much in the last 5 years under the supervision of Marcus Shelton, our nutritional services director. and his supervisor Kathy Kasiba and their entire team. They have really been such innovators for such an essential function within District 87. I think it often goes overlooked. But when we look at our increased participation, when we look at the expansion of our breakfast program, as well as our community-wide eligibility program for lunch, where we are able to serve at no cost to families meals 2 times a day for every child in this district, is truly remarkable. And even more so, the fact that during this pandemic, we have continued to do that service on a regular basis is really commendable. And so a lot has been accomplished in that area. We continue to grow. And I think they're getting even more excited about what they can do in the future with new facilities and new kitchens. When we look at, sorry, let me get to. Oh, it keeps skipping my page, sorry. When we look at this, goal number 6, engage all stakeholders in an active partnership with the district. This has been a core value across all departments and across all schools. We've seen our principals and assistant principals really embrace engaging our families at the school level to really make them feel partners in the educational process for their students. And so continuing to provide family events, continuing to provide our classes for our parent university, to expand technology skills, to expand English acquisition for our second language learners. Those have all been really fundamental things that have allowed us to further our partnership. I think a true sign of accomplishment in this area is the fact that we were able to pass a referendum with such a high percentage. It really shows the amount of trust that the community has in you as the board, as well as the schools themselves. And so that is an area that we continue to work on because more than ever, especially when we rely now on our families to support remote learning at home, that partnership is more important than ever. And then goal 7 is our final goal, which is to serve as financial stewards for our community. All of this would not be possible if we did not really take our responsibility towards fiscal management seriously. So when we look at the last 5 years, we have been able to dramatically increase our fund balance to allow us to contribute money towards the projects for the referendum. We've also improved our credit rating, which again has enabled us to secure better bond rates for the sale of our bonds as part of the referendum. It has also enabled us to secure new positions, to have more leverage at the bargaining table when it comes to securing our staff. The financial management under the direction of Mrs. Vince and her team, in collaboration with every staff member to understand how we should be good financial stewards of this community's resources. All of that together, I think, is really reflective of the work that we've been able to accomplish and accomplish it in a way that still puts us in good financial standing. And so I'm incredibly proud. I shared with the central office team, and I want to share across all of our staff and to the board that having this clear direction and these goal areas has really been at the heart and soul of our daily work. And hopefully every time we meet, we are sharing with you updates around these goals and updates around the work that it takes to accomplish these goals. And so with that, my original hope is that last summer we would have begun our strategic planning process for the next 5 years. Given the pandemic, it did not seem the right time to do so. So my hope is that in the spring, whether we have to do it virtually or hopefully in person, we are able to embark on a really cohesive, collaborative, strategic planning process that will lay out the next 5 years, carrying forward the work that we've laid as the groundwork here, but actually start to dream even bigger than we have before. And so my hope and plan is to solicit a partnership with some consultants, much like when we did our mission work, is to really have a community-wide effort to get stakeholder representation so that we can establish what the board's future goals are going to be and what those action steps are to really lead us to the next 5 years and what we believe District 87 can be. So that was a lot of information, but obviously trying to capture, 2 years worth of work over the span of these last 5 years is a lot. And again, when we look back, it really, hopefully gives you each the opportunity to sit back and celebrate how much has been accomplished, knowing we still have a long way to go, but we are well on our way. And with that, I will take any questions on this video.
I have a comment first. I think the administration done an excellent job in this 5-year plan. You guys stay attuned to it and be sure to count it. I think the entire administration, technology, you guys did a big job and say, job well done.
Thank you.
Agreed.
I brag about you guys so much. I make my friends want to move to.
Yeah, you should, they should. It is an amazing collaborative culture that we have here in District 87, and whether it is, you look at every department, every team, every grade level team, every area throughout any of our schools, and it really comes down to that collective responsibility and really owning the success of this district. And with that, I think the success really is attributed to every single person. We as administrators get the good fortune of getting to tout all the good things that happen, but truly the day-to-day work and the grind that it takes to accomplish all of this goes to so many staff members who are, I think, really happy to be a part of District 87. Okay, with that, the last item I think that's in my section actually is going to be presented at the end from PMA. But for my overall report, I just have a couple of items that I want to comment on. Just to give another update in terms of our COVID-19 health metrics and really looking at where we stand in terms of remote learning. We continue to be in fully remote mode. We are looking at how we can reduce and mitigate the spread within our schools, even for the limited number of staff that are here. So we continue to look at how we can stagger schedules, and pending any further action or shifts in the tier mitigation from the governor, for our county, we are looking at potentially shifting to fully remote for those that are not declared as essential. We will continue, obviously, to maintain our buildings and to provide our nutritional services for our families. That will be completely maintained. But as you know, we've seen a very strong resurgence of the virus, and we are taking all precautions to deal with it accordingly. In terms of our remote learning, we continue to have really positive feedback from our families. We completed the survey last time we spoke, and that survey data was shared out with the community. A lot of positives, a lot of takeaways. Our principals, assistant principals, and even some of our departments did a lot of outreach to families who did have concerns and how we can better address them and work with them individually, because we know that some families are struggling, and this is a really challenging time. I want to give major shout outs to our schools because they are doing some above and beyond outreach to families in positive ways to ensure that they stay connected. I know I've seen several examples of our principals and assistant principals and even our teachers going out and surprising families with balloons and recognizing and giving awards out to kids who are doing an exceptional job. And it's just a really nice way to hopefully boost morale during this time, which we know that there's a dip, and how we can really push through the holidays and make it to the other side of winter. So I want to thank all of them for that work, and I think our counseling team, our social workers, the amount of work that they're doing with small groups and individual students to address some of the needier situations has really been commendable. In terms of our facilities, we are well on our way. We had, I shared last month that we were having a community engagement session, And that took place, and it was a really nice opportunity for our architects to share out what our designs look like. So I shared those with the board last time as well. So we continue to move forward with the design phase. And at our December meeting, we will have a facilities meeting where we will get updates from both Gilbane and Bold on where we are with our projects. And then the last piece that I had, I just wanted to update the board that we held for the second year our holiday card contest, or greeting card for the winter. And I want to personally thank our teachers at all 6 of our schools, because they did an amazing job in a remote setting, getting kids to participate in the contest. They had grade level winners and then school winners, and the school winners were submitted here to central office. And so we are currently voting on the winner for the greeting card cover. And then all 6 winners will be showcased on the District 87 greeting card again this year. So hopefully bring a little holiday cheer, and you guys will get to see some of the amazing digital artwork, both hand-drawn and digital work that our kids are working on as part of their art curriculum. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Do you have any questions I see 3 on the chat? Are there questions?
They're not questions, they're chats amongst administrators about getting on the meeting.
Okay, Ms. Zimmerman.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I wanted to just follow up and give you a little update as Dr. Bresnahan was talking about our new curriculum council. The major focus for this year is really putting in the curriculum management plan, which will give us a roadmap, if you will, a framework for really aligning our written curriculum with our taught curriculum and our assessed curriculum. It'll be that roadmap with which we'll make all of our decisions moving forward around curriculum and instruction, and the materials we use, and our design around our instructional models. So I'm really excited to kind of dig in to this work with them, but that's kind of will be the major focus for the council this year, as well as really looking at our upcoming Institute Day that's in February, and the focus to collaboratively plan that with all of the members of our team. A particular area of focus will also be continuing our work with social emotional learning and trauma-informed practices. So I'm really excited for some opportunities that hopefully we can bring to our staff in February. So I just wanted to give you a quick update. Are there any questions around that, or any things that you want to know about more with that?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Vince.
Hello. The summary of budget, statement of position, and the student activity reports for the period ending October 31, 2020 are provided for your review. The next item that I have in my agenda is an update on the Series 2021 referendum bonds, and we have Tammy Beckwith-Shalmo here to present information and update the board.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Let's see. So am I sharing this on the screen, Dr. Bresnahan?
No, I will go ahead and share my screen and put that up for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. It's nice to see everyone, and I know it feels like I just had a chance to speak with you just yesterday, given that you sold very successfully your first round of referendum bonds a few months ago. But believe it or not, it's time to start thinking about the next sale, because when I had a chance to speak with all of you back in late June, the board gave direction to proceed with the sale of 3 series of bonds as part of your successful referendum this past March. So you may recall that you generated proceeds again with the sale back in August, and now we have a sale that we need to work toward in early 21, with the balance of the bonds to be sold a year later. So if we flip to the next slide, there's 3 topics I'd like to go over with you tonight. One is to give you an update on the municipal bond market, what's been happening with rates, and what's our best estimate of what may transpire over the next couple of months. And then I'll share some updated numbers for you in terms of the estimated debt service cost, and the impact on a homeowner within the district. And then at the end, we'll take a look at a suggested financing calendar over the next few months for this Series 2021 issue. So first, let's look at the market. You may remember we've looked at this index before, and it's called the MMD, which stands for Municipal Market Data Index. And if you remember, it's the index that the public finance municipal bond industry participants look at every single day. It's kind of like the Dow Jones Industrial of the municipal bond market. So whether you're a school district in Illinois or any other type of governmental issuer of bonds, they will sell relative to, or they spread to what this index is doing. So we care very much about the trend in the index. And you see back in early March, we talked about this back in June, there was quite a spike in rates at that point as a result of the beginning of the pandemic, and things started to settle down in May. And you can see what the trend has been over the last several months. You sold your bonds in August, the Series 2020 issue, at that spot that Dr. Bresnahan's highlighting, the lowest point in municipal bond rate history. So congratulations on excellent timing and the ability to access the market. The results were just fantastic. If we look at what's happened with the market since early August, there's been some normalization in the market, and there's a box up near the top just to show you what's happened over the last several months. And we're looking at the 10-year and the 20-year. And I wanted to give you 2 points of view. One is what has happened with each point on the yield curve between August 17th, which was when the Series 2020 bond sold, and the election day a couple weeks ago. And then look at election day to present. And the reason I'm doing this is because typically after a presidential election, if we look at history, we see that municipal bond rates start to go up pretty quickly. And that's because usually there's uncertainty with the administration, whether it's an incumbent administration or a new administration, what their policies might be and how that might influence the municipal bond market. So if we look at the 10-year from August 17th to the day before the election, you can see the 10-year rates went up 28 basis points or 0.28%. And in the 20-year point on the curve, it went up a little bit more, about 32 basis points. Again, not a crazy increase in the market, what I would consider to be normalization given that we were at historically low rates in early August. But look at what's happened with rates since the election. And even if I updated this with a few more days of data, what you'd find is a pretty similar story. Rates have actually come down over the last couple of weeks, and you can see by about 7 basis points and 10 basis points. So we've actually recovered some of what had happened in the 3 months after your August sale. So again, usually we see rates start to go up pretty quickly after a presidential election. But as we know, this election was unique for many reasons, but one of the reasons it's very interesting right now in terms of its impact on the municipal bond market is because we don't yet know who's going to control the Senate. And the Georgia runoff for the 2 seats is really significant for the bond market. If it becomes a Democrat-controlled Senate as a result of the runoff in January, that means we think that the ideas, policies, concepts, plans that President-elect Biden has for the municipal bond market will bode very, very well for issuers, meaning put pressure on rates to keep them low. If it's a Republican-controlled Senate come January, that will just be some more hurdles for the new president to get some of his policies into place. So over the next month to month and a half, it's really hard to predict right now what the municipal bond market will do. I believe it will remain relatively stable just because we don't have an answer on those 2 Senate seats. But come January, we could see some change in the market. Again, it either could be improvement or it could be rates going in the other direction. It's just too hard to say at this point. But I think, again, keeping in mind the rates are still near historical lows is really fantastic as we think about your sale coming up. So if we go to the next slide, I wanted to first give you a perspective about what was communicated to taxpayers, to homeowners during the referendum campaign back in the early part of 2020. And if you remember, there was a property tax impact calculator that was available on the district's website. So someone could go in and put the market value of their home, and then it would calculate for them what the estimated impact was. So if you put that in and your home value was $200,000, and we incorporated the standard $10,000 homestead exemption into the formula, the estimated impact from the successful $105 million referendum was $558. Now that assumed interest rates as of December 9th, so almost a year ago of 2019, plus a cushion of 0.75%, because almost a year ago, we couldn't predict where interest rates were going to be, but we felt it was important to build in cushion. You can see that the estimated bond and interest tax rate increase was going to be about $1.15, almost $1.16, an increase on the tax rate of the district. And of course, the impact would be felt by homeowners against their 2020 levy tax bills that are actually payable in calendar year 2021. So that's when they would feel the impact of the successful referendum. Let's go to the next slide. So this is looking at where the results were for Series 2020 as represented by the column that's shaded in the darker blue. Again, actual results from your sale a few months ago that generated the $26 million in proceeds, and our estimate at that point for the 2021 and 2022 transactions. And based on where the market was at that time, there's a bullet point at the bottom of the page that estimated the true interest cost was a 3.54%. Again, building in more cushion into rates because even back in August, it was hard to predict where the market was going to go. But you can see that there's a red circle around the estimated principal and interest cost over the life of the transaction at about $58.6 million. If we look at the right-hand side of the page and up toward the top, there's a blue arrow. That's pointing to the estimated increase as of a few months ago in the district's equalized assessed value, or its EAV. And the estimate was 10%. And actually that's an estimate we've been using for over a year. And I know Laura is very in tune with conversations with assessors and her peer district CSBOs about increases for your area. And at that point, that was our assumption. There's another number circled in blue just to the right of the arrow, a couple columns over. What you can see is that from the sale from August, our estimate at that point was just about $1.01. So at that point, because interest rates from the sale from the 2020 issue were better than what we had estimated earlier in the summer, already we were seeing an improvement or a lower rate than what had been estimated during the referendum campaign. So this is good news so far. So if we go to the next slide, here's our latest update. So now we have, again, two columns shaded in light blue represent the Series 2021 and 2022 issue. We're going to focus largely today on the 2021 issue because that's the one that's coming here in the next few months. You can see circled in the bottom in red, that estimate now is about $55.2 million in principal and interest over the life of the issue. So over $3.4 million less than what the estimate was just a few months ago. And now you can see that the estimated true interest cost, or the TIC, is down to 2.95%. Okay. Now, if we go back up to the right-hand side of the page and go to the columns on the right-hand side, so you'll see that there's the yellow line shaded across, but see that the two boxes that have borders around them. So now it shows you that the estimated bond and interest tax rate increase is about 88 cents. That's a function of two things, though. One is based on feedback that Laura received from speaking with county assessors and peer districts. The estimated increase in your EAV for levy year 20 is now 20%. And as you can see, when we also factor in these lower interest rate assumptions, that also adds to the reason why that estimated bond and interest rate increase went from $1.01 on the prior slide to now 88 cents. So there's those two things that are influencing that estimated rate increase. So if we go to the next slide, this is just a picture showing you in aggregate, when we look at the three bond issues, 2020 represented by the darkest of the blue bars, the shade of blue that's just a little bit lighter than that one, the 21 issue, and then the lighter blue bars, the 2022. And we put everything together into the puzzle. As you know, the goal with the referendum was to achieve level debt service payments. The mild drop that you see in levy year 2031 is a function of the fact that you have some non-referendum debt service coming off that year. It will retire. So that's the reason there's the slight drop at that point. But otherwise, the plan is as was presented to the community during the referendum campaign. So if we go one more slide, let's go back to estimated homeowner impact. So I started off the presentation talking to you about what the estimated impact was, what was projected, what was explained to voters during the referendum campaign. So here's where we are now. Based on the updated information I've shared with you tonight, for a $200,000 market value home incorporating the standard $10,000 homestead exemption, the estimated impact is lower. It's $425. So again, a function of a higher assumption in EAV growth and more favorable market conditions, lower interest rates than what we had been assuming over the last several months because we had been appropriately conservative. Now you may wonder, well, how might this impact me? How might this impact my neighbor? And everybody's story is different because not only the value of their home, but which township they're in. Are they in Leiden? Are they in Proviso? Which one was reassessed last year? Which one was reassessed this year in levy year 2020? And obviously part of your tax base is not only residential, you have commercial and industrial. So they pay a big portion of the debt service share as well. But I wanted to provide this third sub bullet point here. So if you're sitting thinking, well, I live in Proviso and I know that my property value could go up significantly in levy year 20, what does that mean? Does that mean that my bill's going to actually go up higher than what was communicated during the referendum? And the answer is no. Even with the fact that your home value may go up higher, if it goes up by 20% in alignment with what the 20% increase is for the district's total EAV, you can see that it would be a $527 impact. And that's lower than what we had looked at on that very, very first slide. So even if you look at this different ways, we are still very confident that someone's home, even if it increases significantly this year, because the rate is coming down for the reasons I described earlier, that the impact on that homeowner will still be less than what was communicated during the referendum campaign. And then I think our last slide is just giving the board a timetable. And we wanted to share with you our plan and make sure you're all comfortable and see what questions you might have first. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to give you this update tonight. And with your blessing, we'd like to bring a parameters resolution for the sale of the 2021 bonds to you at your December 14th meeting. And you'll remember you adopted a parameters resolution for the Series 20 bonds. So you delegate authority to the administration and to one officer of the board to ultimately approve the sale of the results whenever we actually hit the market. You may recall that last time that parameters resolution was to be valid for 6 months. In this case, because we have a board election in less than 6 months, this parameters resolution actually expires in April on the date of the board election. But as you can see, our plan is to be in the market well in advance of that. And with your Series 2020 bond issue, you may recall that PMA sent out requests for proposals to various underwriters and recommended that the board and district select Mesero Financial to serve as underwriter. So they did a great job on that sale, working with the district and PMA back in August. At this point, we're not ready to deliver a recommendation to the district to say either let's go back to Mesero, let's look at a different underwriter, or maybe let's go with what's called a competitive sale instead, where we would solicit bids on the district's behalf. Because your credit rating improved, that makes the transaction for this next issue maybe more conducive to a competitive sale. But because we have quite a while still before your transaction would get into the market, we'd like to evaluate market conditions right after the first of the year and right after that Georgia Senate seat runoff and have a better grasp on what's going on with the market. I would say at this point, there's a good chance we will recommend a negotiated sale again. But again, I'd like to see how the market plays out over the next couple of months. The district will have to go through the motions to affirm its credit rating. I'm not concerned that it will change from where it's at. It should be just a simple affirmation, but the administration will have to go through a 20 or 30-minute update call with the rating agency. And then our plan would be to get into the market in early February, close on the transaction early March, and that's when the district would have the $40 million of bond proceeds for the projects that are part of the referendum. So I will be glad to pause and see what questions you may have for me tonight.
We have 2 sales, right? One that took place in the south. That's it, right?
Well, this is 2 of 3.
2 of 3.
2 of 3. So this would give us the second sale and then allow us, the third one would be, what did we anticipate for the date of the third sale, Tammy, do you remember?
Yeah, it likely would be in early, about the same time frame in early 2022, January, February of 22.
And you have painted a very nice rosy picture for us. Anticipating we could run into some risks here.
I would say that a couple things. One is you're absolutely correct. I certainly don't have a crystal ball, but I will remind everyone of a couple things. One is that in the numbers I've shared with you tonight, we're still assuming 50 basis points of cushion into the rates for the 2021 transaction. So even if rates would go up by 50 basis points between now and your sale in February, we'd still be able to achieve the information I've shared with you in terms of the homeowner impact for this next transaction. We've also built in for the 2022 transaction 100 basis points or a full percentage point over current market rates for that issue. But you may recall that when we spoke earlier in June, I'm so glad that you asked about this because I think it's a good reminder. We said back in June that for the 21 and 2022 issues, there's continued flexibility. So to your point, and what you might be thinking about is, well, what if we as a board come May or June, just start to see interest rates creeping up and we're not comfortable and we would like to lock in the bonds that are slated to be sold in 2022? Could we accelerate that sale and take the rates we can get in 21? And the answer to that is yes. So there's continued flexibility. Even in early January, when we are able to assess the market and get back with the administration and let them know where things stand, even at that point, we could have an updated conversation to say, let's stick with the plan. Let's accelerate, maybe the 2022 issue, start to think about accelerating that issue into 21. We'll have those conversations to see where things are at. But I guess the short answer is we've built in quite a bit of cushion that I'm very comfortable with, but yet you still have flexibility as a board to change your plan if you're uncomfortable with the market.
2022 concerns.
Yeah.
I think next year we're still in a good place. But 22 concerns me because of what's going to happen next year. Just everything that's going on.
If this is really a favorable report.
Yeah.
So we'll ask the administration to stay attuned to this and make sure that if we see any kind of flexibility, we need to raise the flag right away.
Yeah.
So Tammy, thanks for the response. We appreciate
Sure.
it.
And if it would be all right with the board, what we could do for that parameters resolution in December, we could include it for the full 79 million of remaining referendum authority. So that if we get into January, February, March, and we're anxious about the market and you'd ultimately decide you want to pull the trigger on that full amount, you'd have the ability to do that. But adopting a resolution for the full 79 million doesn't obligate you to sell all of it. It just gives you the flexibility to do it.
That would be the entire 105 being our referendum.
That would be the remaining amount, correct?
Consider.
And that's really, I think, when Laura and Tammy and I had the original conversation about looking at splitting the bonds was to maximize the flexibility, not knowing what the election would bring, not knowing what 21 would bring. because it was almost the opposite fear that we were gonna be in a worst case scenario now. And so I think maximizing that flexibility is gonna be a really good way to go.
Okay.
Any other questions for Tammy? Well, Tammy, as always, I swear I learn something new every time you present, and you have such a wonderful way of educating all of us. And I think what we really, my hope in having Tammy present tonight was to always bring us back to the commitments that we made during the referendum, and for us to make sure, number one, we were honoring them. And if we have opportunities to celebrate that we're doing even better, to grab hold of those as well. So thank you, Tammy, for outlining that for us, and hopefully we continue on the positive track with this news.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for the chance to revisit with everyone.
Thank
Stay well.
And thanks for making this time work. I know she was doing back-to-back board meetings, so appreciate you accommodating and getting here so fast.
Oh, glad to do it. Thanks for your flexibility too.
All right. Thank you.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay. The next item on my agenda,
Sorry, Laura, 1 second. We just have a quick question by Mr. Hightower.
yes.
Bring the other, say, now we know, what we have to do, what we have to vote on to make that happen.
Yeah, so what we will do is if the board reaches agreement tonight, we will then direct Tammy to create the resolution for approval in December to include the entire amount. And again, it's a no-lose situation because we can still issue less, but it maximizes our potential to hit the market if it's most favorable for the entire amount.
And the rates are really big.
Yeah.
Very good.
So if the board is in agreement with that, we'll talk with, and make sure that Tammy brings that back with the full amount for the resolution in December.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah,
That's
Okay.
good. Alex?
makes sense.
I am.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
Okay,
great. Thank you.
okay.
Thanks, Laura.
Sure. Okay, so the last item on my agenda is my oral report. And I wanted to give the board a quick update on the PACE transportation billing. So PACE did sign a contract, issue a contract with First Student, which includes similar to the one we have with our transportation provider. It includes the ability to pay a reduced amount during remote learning, and the state did change the which allows us to claim that amount on our transportation claim at the end of the school year. So that is a savings for the district while we were in remote learning. And then the other thing is that they are reducing, in addition to that, we normally pay a small amount to PACE for their local transportation, their driver that delivers mail, lunches, and different things. Because they are in remote learning and there's less transportation required between buildings, between districts, they have reduced that amount. So they have removed that transportation piece from our billing starting with December until further notice. So, so that will generate another savings for the district and for PACE. And then I wanted to review with the board. Previously this year, I talked about some changes. The group informed us the Secure Act and some changes during the coronavirus the CARES Act, I'm sorry, the CARES Act that provided opportunities for individuals to make withdrawals or loans against their 403B investments without penalty because of the severity of the pandemic. So there are some, at the time I shared with the board that we, at some point, we would have to make those changes to the language within our plan document. And recently, Dr. Bresnahan was invited to participate in a presentation 57s, which is another type of savings program. And the savings programs we offer for the employees is a voluntary program that they would make their contributions on a voluntary basis. It does not require contributions from the board, but it does give them another opportunity to plan and save for retirement. So that is something that we would like to investigate to add a 457 to our plan document. So I will work with the Omni Group, our vendors, and Dan Boyle to get the appropriate language that's required to meet the new Secure Act requirements. And then we'll bring updates and bring that back to the board for approval once that's finalized. The next item is I wanted to share with the board information on the IMRF Voluntary Life Insurance Program. It's an optional program through IMRF participating employees. And it is a life insurance for the employee, but it includes smaller amounts through that same premium that covers the spouse and children at a lesser amount. So again, that's a voluntary program that we would like to make available to the employees. And again, it is an employee contribution that covers the cost for that premium. So I would like to bring the IMRF resolution forward in December for the board to act on that would make that possible. And then if the board approves the resolution, then we would work with IMRF to set up the rollout of that program. And the next item, Ms. Byen has the IMRF ballot. So the elections for the IMRF board comes up periodically, and the way we currently have it set up is that a board member completes that and signs off on it. So in the past, I think previously, I'm not sure Mr. Hightower, Mr. Chavez, if you have done it, but I believe Mr. Paletto has filled that out in the past. So that is there, and we would just need a volunteer from a board member that would like to read the packet. There's a small brochure in there of the candidates, and then make the election for on behalf of the board. And then moving forward in the future, the board always has the option, if the board members do not want to continue to do that when the elections come up, we can file an updated resolution and assign that to the authorized agent, which the board has assigned the authorized agent responsibilities to me. So if that is something that the board wants to change in the future, I'd be happy to bring that resolution forward for consideration. Do we have a volunteer?
What do? We get a read and sign?
Read and cast your vote on behalf of the board.
When does that need to be done?
And what's the deadline?
It needs to be submitted by December 10th.
Right before middle. Yeah, I mean, it's all in the tables, right?
Yeah. You could probably take care of it today.
I mean, I don't know what I'm voting for. I'd like to know what.
Are you doing it, Carlos?
Yes.
Thank you.
Question on the voluntary life insurance. Is there any cost to the district?
No, we would set it up as a payroll deduction, and it's a group rate, and it's a sliding scale depending on the age of the employee, and it's in age groups. So obviously, the younger the employee is, the more coverage they have, and as they age, the coverage does go down. But it is paid for by the employee.
That includes for the family member.
Right. So in my former district, it was something that we had offered to employees, and I'm going to date myself, but when I first started in my old district, I think it was about $12 a month. And then by the time I left, it was like maybe $18 or $19 a month. But it's like the coverage varies depending on the age bands.
Are those numbers similar to the ones we're gonna be looking at?
I'm sorry.
Are those numbers similar to the one we're gonna be looking at, currently? Is 18 or 20 or $25 a month what the employees are gonna be paying?
Well, the $18, that was 12 years ago, so, but I would get that, we would get that information and bring that forward, but it is a minimal amount compared to, if they went out and purchased, individually. I'd be happy to bring the rates back.
Yeah, and again, it's voluntary, it's a nice option to offer to employees, so.
Yeah, there's no cost to the board. It's just giving them, other opportunities to obtain these things.
Thanks, Laura. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Sullivan.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Just a few updates from special services regarding grants and our programming. First of all, I just wanted to mention that we will be continuing to be looking at creative ways to expend our grants in the most effective way. And it's kind of an ongoing balance between our in-person status and the in-person status versus the remote status. And we have to continually collaborate depending on which situation that we are in. Also, we are looking at exploring a remote spelling bee for this year. So the principals are looking into it in the sense of finding a sponsor, and then possibly we would be participating with West 40 again. But I'll keep you posted on that. It's all been pushed back. So instead of it taking place as our district spelling bee, which would be in January, it would be pushed back into February. But I'll keep you posted on it. If we can, we'd like to provide this opportunity for the children, but it's a little more complicated because we have to secure sponsors in a remote setting. And but we'll keep you posted. We have to keep trying to move forward and give kids opportunities. Additionally, next month, we'll be presenting for your review and approval our annual school improvement plans and our school improvement reports, which are part of the Title I 103A grant. And so the school improvement plan is the traditional plan that you have approved every December. And the school improvement report is a requirement of the Title I 103A grant. So I'll talk more about that next month. And then finally, I just wanted to point out how proud we are of the work that our special education team has been doing and our pre-K team has been doing in this remote setting, but continuing to perform screenings for our families. And I just wanted to mention that because it's been a tremendous undertaking. Sometimes it's been a blend of remote and in-person, but they're still finding a way to do it. Vision, hearing screenings, psychological screenings, social work screenings. It's been a real combined effort. I just wanted to make sure that I just recognize the leadership that Ms. Spatafor has been providing in the area of special education and for our preschool programming. So unless there are any questions, that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Sullivan.
Thank you.
And on to Mrs. Travis.
All right. Good evening. I won't take much of your time. I have on my oral report vacancies that we currently have. And then secondly, I just wanted to update the school board and let you know that annually our department sends out letters to those staff members whose licensure will expire at the end of the school year. We send out 2 letters. And so we just sent out the first, we sent it out via email since we're not in person. We sent it out via email to let those staff members whose licensure will expire June 30th, 2021, inform them that their license will expire. This lets them know to make sure they do their professional development and get everything in order so that they're ready to renew their license at the end of the school year. And then we'll send out a reminder letter in March, and we just monitor, everyone's licensure from March through the end of the school year. Unless you have any questions, this is the end of my report for this evening.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other new business?
Well, we want to take a minute to celebrate and honor our board members. As you know, normally in our November meeting, we recognize National Board Member Appreciation Day. So at your place setting is a gift on behalf of our principals and assistant principals from each of their schools. They each adopted one of you, and from their teams, they've provided you with these gifts. So there's a special personalized mask inside your bags with the school that is associated with the principal and assistant principal. And then they also included some other nice gifts for you guys to enjoy. Just in recognition, we really wish you guys could be visiting the schools and having lunch with our kiddos. But in lieu of that, hopefully you can enjoy some special gifts for you in their honor. So I know many of our principals and assistant principals are watching tonight, so a big thank you to them for taking the time to put these together and recognize each of you. And then Mrs. Bryan has some special treats waiting in the closed session room, so please make sure that you take those home with you to enjoy. From me personally, I want to thank each of you for your service. In today's climate, the role of board members is not an easy one. And to stand as volunteers who give of your time so willingly and without really very little recognition and reward, I think every day you guys deserve to be recognized for the service that you provide to the community, to the students, to the staff, to the administration of District 87. You are an outstanding board that I feel very privileged and honored to work with, and I could not ask for 7 better bosses. So thank you all so much for your service, and on behalf of District 87, congratulations and celebrate.
The Chicago Tribune had a very interesting article on Sunday about board members, school board members. They are stuck in a very hard place because you've got both sides of the community pushing to keep closed, and to reopen.
Yes.
Very interesting article. So I don't know if anybody get a chance to see it or read it, but I definitely recommend it.
Yes, and I think that your leadership and the climate of the community at large is a testament to your leadership. And the fact that we don't have that pull and push as much here is really unique and something that we should all recognize and be very grateful for. So you built a good foundation.
Thank you. I think we all work well together.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Okay.
100%.
All right. Any other new business? Could we have a motion to adjourn? Carlos, second? By Alex. Okay, could we have roll call, please?
Canton.
Aye.
O'Connell.
Aye.
Sosa.
Aye.